So, right, I need to change the titles. Edit stream information. Nationals 2022. Okay. How's my stream quality going? Not bad, yeah. Alright, so welcome to the 2022 National Schools Individuals. This is going to be the coverage of the under 20 section, which has some players from the from the Varsity Chess Alliance, so the Students Varsity Chess Alliance, and we are currently looking at the first round of games. So everyone in chat, can you hear the audio? Like, is it clear and everything? Just give me a heads up if there are any problems. So today for the morning section, the first 3 rounds, we'll be commentators. I'm Kira and this is T. Hi. So the first game we'll be looking at today for the first round. Let's take a quick look. Hey, hi Lau. Thanks for coming in. Okay, so we'll be looking at Cabbage is Meh versus Fig Tree for the first round. So Cabbage is Meh is one of our varsity players, Tobias Lim from NYP. So Fig Tree, coincidentally enough, is also another player from the varsity chess community, Ye Wei Hao from TP. So we're already into the nearly the end game already. We're basically in the end game already. So let's take a quick look at how we got here from the opening. So it's a Karukan, my personal favorite opening for S Black. So let's see what they go for. It's the classical Karukan. Oh, and we got the Tatakawa variation. So another variation for black here is the classical main line, where the bishop will go to f5 and target the knight, and the knight will jump back here to target the bishop again. And that's the line I used to play a lot, but I found that it was a bit more passive on black side. The Tatakawa here is something that's a bit more in vogue right now. A lot of the high level GMs are playing it when they play the Karukan at all. So the idea is that after taking the knight, you black will take back with the e pawn, and then it will open up very sharp, very open lines for black to develop. It's very easy development, but the problem is that your pawn structure is somewhat worse than white. So black wants to avoid going into an endgame with that worse pawn structure. But however, we see it here that Cabbage is mad, that decides not to go into the main line for the Tatakawa. And here, actually, the one move that I like to play against this move is to go for immediate h5. Just planning a simple h4 to kick the knight out. So white will usually reply with h4 as well, right? But here, I'm not sure if this is still theory for Fig Tree, but let's see how this goes. Bishop attacking the queen, gaining tempo, it's fine because the knight defends the bishop. Knight blocks instead of pushing the f-pawn, which would weaken the pawn structure on the king side. And then here we have a very thematic move in the Karukan, which is the c5 break. Although I'm not sure how wise it is at this point, because it feels like black still needs to get the bishop out before allowing this break to happen. But I guess black just wants to go into an end game, trading away the queens. This pawn can white can try to defend this pawn, try to hold on to the extra pawn that they have in this position, but I think black is not developing the bishop. Yeah, but okay, they need to get this bishop out of trouble, so they move it back here to e5. The problem is that now this bishop is a bit difficult to develop. I guess you would try to to it unless you want to move the bishop out of the way of the e pawn. Let me check the stream status. Hey Drew, nice to see you. And then so we have the C push over here. I'm not sure what the idea is. So, right, just giving the king a square to go to, trying to push the king out forward as a useful attacking piece as well, because we've entered the endgame already. So, is it worse to block? Oh, the game has ended, but let's continue looking at the game first. So, why move the king here instead?
Yeah, instead of
blocking with the bishop?
Or knight or...
Right, I will assume that white's idea is to try to get as active as possible. Because if you block with the bishop is pinned to the king for the moment at least, and I don't think there's anything concretely immediately wrong tactically, but it does limit your options in terms of getting your pieces further out into the action in the short term. So getting the king out here, because I don't see any immediate danger to the king, maybe the bishop check over here. How dangerous is this bishop check? Let's see. They don't go for it, but let's... Okay, now that the game is over, we can analyze the game.
Actually, why not?
So yeah, is it? Right. Yeah, I think this would have been a decent move. Some issues that could have arisen is... I think this would be a plausible move, and then it's threatening to... Okay, but this removes the pin, so yeah, I don't think there's anything immediately wrong. Like, my idea was to try to get the bishop out somewhere while still maintaining this pin, and then you can threaten by pushing e5. Threaten to push e5, which will win the knight. But there's no real good space for the bishop, in my opinion. So I think this would have been a plausible move, but I don't think there's anything wrong with king c2 immediately. Does this bishop check do anything? But there's only one real way to block the check, which is via this, and this isn't great because you lose a pawn in the process. So yeah. So I think black might have missed this move. We can check with the analysis, the engine later to see whether it's the best move in the position. But instead, black goes for bishop to c4, and here white wants to try to trade down, even though I don't think that it's in their best interest to, because even though white is up a pawn, the double pawns here are going to be fairly difficult to defend. So it looks somewhat drawish here. So black trades away they trade away bishops, and right now material is almost equal with white with one extra pawn, and then black develops the e pawn to try to target the double pawn here, and white tries to hold on to the pawn. So this structure is surprisingly resilient, especially with the king having moved up here. It's now actually a defender of the pawn in the back. Yeah. What's happening here? It's just both sides are slowly trying to get their pieces into better positions. So black is expanding its pawns on the queen side over here. White is centralizing the rooks. A trade of rooks you for either side will be, so black moves the bishop because they want to have the rooks be connected to each other. So now if either side takes the other player's rook, you can take back with your own rook, and then you end up with the rook controlling the open file. Yeah. So here the knight threatening the bishop. And I think it might not even be super advantageous to trade the knight for the bishop, because this bishop is significantly worse than this knight. This knight is very far advanced. It has many points of support coming up and possible. And this bishop is kind of trapped behind this very strong pawn chain, which will take some time for black to break because you need to advance the pawns up. And black is also stuck behind its own pawn chain, so not a lot of future for this bishop. But here you can see that this pawn is hanging actually. So okay, but white does not go for it. I think the reason is because if you take the pawn here, rook g rook g8 is coming, and then you also lose your pawn as well because you have to move the knight out of the way. But and then the rook can come down to the 7th rank and give you a check as well. So maybe that's why they didn't go for it. Trying to defend the pawn preemptively, but this allows white to gain this. So the idea of a4 was to push b5 to try to open up the king side structure and target the knight. And I'm confused.
So, in case it's not obviously, I am not like and from my perspective, like being the it just took because pieces there, and I think in front of my like I want to like down the line, where right behind the so they pushed black pushed behind, and it's like there's no white rook like down the column.
The problem is that you're behind your own pawn, so I guess you might want to try to push on to break open that file, but it's a bit slow, especially considering that one of your own pieces is hanging right now. But is there an immediate tactical problem here? Because rook here, Lichess doesn't actually call it a blunder, so is this knight lost regardless? Oh yes, because you can't move the knight away because the knight is the defender of the bishop. So the knight is overloaded. If you move the knight away, then you end up losing the bishop along with getting forked.
Right.
Yeah. So that is a very sharp move by white. So the rook moving here is mainly a defensive move to prevent that fork from happening, while still adding a defending the bishop. But this ends up losing the knight for black. Okay. So yes, I am not very. I'm still a relative beginner at chess. I've been playing seriously for about a year or so.
She studies.
Yes, and this is T. She is a casual player. So should be asking the questions that the more beginner viewers might be having in their heads, and I will try to answer them, even though I'm only slightly better than her. So,
No, see, she's being modest.
right. So, here we have just consolidating the material advantage. They're up a complete piece and a pot. They're up a complete piece right now, and um, does not look salvageable. With this rook very strong, cannot be targeted by any pawns, and it's supported by a pawn itself. And here we just see white slowly advancing up and capitalizing on any weaknesses that black creates. So just consolidating material advantage, giving a check, and then this black thought that they were going to win this pawn, but nope. White can give a check here and then do the exact same thing with capturing a pawn while still defending the pawn as well. And the bishop was already defending this pawn anyway, so white is just going to clear house and black resigns in this position. So great game by Cabbage's Mare, who is once again one of our varsity chess community players, Tobias Lim from NYP. And a good fight put up by another one of our varsity chess players, Big Tree, who is Yo Wei Hao from TP. So let's take a look at the other games that are going on right now. Uh, 5, 21. So let's take a look at the standings. We have Cabbage's Mare currently in joint first or second place effectively with 1 point, winning their previous game. Other players within the varsity community that are playing in the National Schools Individuals are okay, we can go to the NSI women's players as well. Let's see. How's the stream, everyone? Is everything going okay? Let me know in the comments if you have any problems hearing what's going on.
Or if you have
Kira's a beginner lies. Yes, I am a beginner, Lao. The few times that I've managed to beat you are very lucky. Most of the time you beat me, so so we are looking at the girls side, the girls under 20 also right now here. Girls, more women really, under 20. I mean, there could be some more precautious players who are a bit younger playing in the under 20 because they are just too good for their own age.
chess is all thing climbing up the
Yes,
age group.
chess is a child's game. Literally a child's game because the children will
Will wreck
will
everyone
wreck all
else.
the adults. Yes. So, right. So other players we have Eunice Heng, who is very nice. What is the are they currently still playing? Did they have make a new account? You is very here they are. You is very nice. Won their game. We can take a look at that as well. We Edison Kang from TP. So Eunice Heng is from NP. You is very nice. Edison Ng is Edison Kang, sorry, is from TP. Fortress Trap. So Fortress Trap is we're just gonna do a search. Not in the open. Let's take a look at the no results. Are they playing? Fortress Trap. Edison Kang from TP. I'm just gonna check up the chess to see if they are maybe in a different age group. Does not seem like they are actively playing today, so maybe they are in a different age group. And then we have new player 345, who is currently still in their game. You can take a look at that as well. So, and then we have Marcus Tan from TP Onwards Hope. Onwards Hope did not manage to win their game, but we can take a look at that game as well. Yo Wei Hao, who played Cabbage, is Meh Tobias Lim previously in the game we looked at. And then finally we have Saravanan Durga from NUS, who is Saran Durga 11. Saran Durga. I think it's the woman's. Saran Durga, yes. Their game is still ongoing. We can take a look at that as well. So, Saran Durga is in serious time trouble. Let's see if they can manage to pull through. It's a 15+10 game, so it is possible that they survive off increment. They are currently winning by an entire piece, so this should be exciting. Let's see the position. Black has double pawns. So white is completely winning here if not for the time situation. But we have some. That sounds like one of my games, yes. So we have white is very happy here if they had more time. Although the knight here is currently dominated by this bishop, so you can see that there's actually no squares that the knight can go to without being captured by the bishop. Although you can go here and just try to trade off pieces, right? So, okay, we seem to be They seem to be stabilizing the position. So because it's plus 10 seconds, so I think this will be a win for Saran. If they can keep their nerves, their composure, yes. So Black is trying to create counterplay, but it's extremely difficult. As long as White can keep the pieces and pawns off the light squares, the light square bishop for Black is effectively not particularly useful.
Nearly everything is on a black square for.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's literally only one.
Yeah, White is playing very practically. Although now the rook is targeting the knight, so White has to be extremely careful not to remove the defender of the knight right now, which is the king. One possibility is that you can give a check now, and that would be a fork, yes, and that is what White does, winning one of the pawns. Ooh. And now the bishop. Oh yeah, great. Oh. Okay, White is completely winning. As long as they don't go into knight and bishop versus king endgame, because it is a theoretical win if you have a knight and bishop against a lone king, but learning the checkmate pattern for that is probably one of the most difficult things of all the endgames. Hey, Furry Chris.
Furry Chris. Yeah. Hi.
So we can come back to this game in a bit. Let's take a look at the other games. I can close this. Yeah, U is very nice.
Is it U is very nice or U is very neat?
Very nice. I think so. I think so. I don't think it's a reference to the French city of Nice.
No, it's a reference to their name. U.
Oh, that's true. That's smart. GM level here.
Hey, no. My special game.
Okay, interesting. So this is an interesting move order. I wonder why Eunice chose this move order for. So usually people get the knight out before the bishop, but maybe there's some sort of intricacy here because Eunice is actually one of the strongest junior players in Singapore. So WCM maybe? I don't know. I think I remember her being titled, but I could be mistaken. No, maybe she's titled, I'm not so sure. But she is one of the strongest players. She's represented Singapore in a few tournaments already, so. You just see pieces flying around. Okay. So I actually have never seen this opening before. It's an Italian game, but they call it the anti-fright liver defense. So the fright liver. Alright, so I guess it's called anti-fright liver after this push because for those of you who do not know what the fright liver is, it's this opening where black plays the two knights defense against the Italian game, and then white decides to target the F pawn with both of the active pieces. So this leads to very sharp games that are fairly theory heavy actually for both sides. The best move in this position is actually to play d5 and then you take the pawn. And the best move actually isn't to take back the pawn. It's to target the bishop back here. Yeah. So you go for a check here and then you go this and then this fun stuff. Very theoretically heavy. I actually covered this with our friend Chu Tong the other day. So yeah. So h6 is called anti-fright liver defense because you're just preventing the move knight to g5 ever with the pawn over here. So white decides to utilize the because this is a very slow move. It doesn't develop anything. It's a purely defensive move, very reactive. You just don't want to enter a specific line. So Eunice, seeing this imbalance in development, decides to break open the center. And by breaking open the center here, you trade off queens and the either you take with king and then you lose castling rights, or you take with the knight and then now all your pieces are on the back rank while white has to develop. Yeah. And then this pawn is now hanging. So yeah. So white is in a very, very good position after opening already. Eunice showing her strength.
Would it have made more sense and lose casting rights, or is it really?
I think in this position, bit hard to say. Let's see if you move. Let's say if you take the king, what happens? Take the king. The problem is that you white castles now, and then rook to d1 is coming, and then white is just amazingly developed, right? So
I mean, it would be amazing.
That's true. Yes. And also the king was the defender of the f7 pawn. So now bishop takes f7 is either way you lose a pawn. So here you lose a central pawn, here you lose a f pawn. Positionally, I think it's a bit difficult to say which is more beneficial for white. Let's take a look at the chat. Fortress pulled out. Okay. Taking with the king loses the f7 pawn. Right. Thanks, Drew. Yeah. So knight takes e5, b6. Black was unfortunate, I feel. Being matched up against Eunice. 1400. They're putting like nearly a 1500. Putting up a good fight. However, they're already down some material and some development, so I wouldn't recommend trading for black. And this push is a very one move attack. So something that a lot of people at my level even do is that they get a bit desperate because they're down a pawn or down a piece, and then they do one mover attacks. They don't calculate
try to attack.
Yeah, exactly. So this attacks the knight, but the knight doesn't have to stay there to get eaten, right? So what pawn pushers do is that they create long-term weaknesses that cannot be removed because pawns only move forward. So over here, you are creating a massive light square weakness, and your light square bishop and your queen has already been traded off. So who's going to be the one defending all these nice holes? Holes, yes. So a hole in chess is Okay, a hole in chess is a square that cannot be defended by any pawn. So in this case, this is a hole because it's no longer defended by any pawn, and the knight being attacked by the pawn is almost forced to go into this very amazing square where it cannot be targeted by the non-existent light square bishop and the queen, and it gains a tempo on the rook as well. So the rook has to do this very ugly move that saves the rook, but
Like gets it stuck there.
yeah, what is its future? You need to make another 2 moves. You need to make another move to get it.
Or
yeah.
you
Yeah, exactly. And then you can't even push the pawn forward to move the rook forward because the bishop covers that square, right? So this is not a fun position to play, I would say. White just wants to get into a winning endgame. So although white is only up a pawn right now, the problem is that black's pieces are not very well placed.
in this situation, why are you?
I don't think so, actually.
We would have.
It's fairly equal. Slightly better to take with the king. Roughly equal. They're both plus. Yeah. So I don't think there's too big of a difference, especially at this level. There is, with this amount of difference in terms of the evaluation, I think it should be an easy conversion for white. White just simply developing the remaining pieces, getting castled, and then performing a very clean endgame, trading away the pieces whenever possible. Very accurate play. White doesn't even go for the easy hanging pawn over here, but instead goes for this trying to take with the knight instead to give check to the king. And wow, this is a very pretty mate. So the bishop defends the knight. The king can't move out into the file that is guarded by the rook, so it moves in, and this is a background mate, and that was very clean by unit. Very accurate play, even with the free pawn over here just hanging over here, just moving the knight in for the kill instead of thinking for short-term material gains. So like another thing that also here is that the knight actually is the defender of this pawn, so you have to think about 3 moves ahead to see that there's a mate possible. You're giving up a pawn, and white is just up a pawn in terms of raw material count, so very impressive. Actually got Joel on first game, right? So that is JY. JY is also playing noob player 345 from TP. They got Joel Ong, who is seems to be a very strong. Wow, 2,520. Joel Ong, I've never heard. I'm fairly new to the chess scene, so I don't actually know Joel Ong.
Right.
Probably, yeah. Okay, we'll just take a look at the game first. Before opening, new player is JY playing as black. So I'm gonna flip the board. Possible? Okay, there you go. So playing okay, so it has transposed into Queen's Gambit declined. So here is the semi-Tarrasch defense. This kind of positions where the 2 pawns are locked up together, very complicated. I usually have some trouble figuring out when to break the tension, but here white does so immediately. And I'm not very familiar with these positions. White just trying to get their full development, and then I think black does the same. See anything wrong with this position so far? Just seems like standard development. Oh. The knight drum seems a bit unwarranted. What's the idea here? trying to keep the bishops, but this is a blunder. Why? Let's try to find why this is a blunder. I'm gonna hide the moves on the side. So right. So the queen defends the bishop, right? If you move the bishop in between the queen and the bishop, you no longer defend the bishop, and now the knight actually moves to attack the bishop that has so the knight defends this bishop as well, but another problem you see is that this pawn is now hanging. So the isolated queen's pawn for black is hanging as well. So it's with a single move, white has created multiple weaknesses in black's camp. So black tries to continue to defend this isolated d pawn, but white adds another attacker to the d pawn. So this is trading the bishop for the knight, but the position is getting open. So white now has the advantage of the two bishops, pair of bishops. So central pawns have been traded off already. So the bishops are bishops, I would say, are more useful in a game where the some central pawns have been traded off, because there are open lines for the bishops to utilize to try to attack on the from the other side of the board as well. So compared to knights. So the knight, we see in this game the knight just harassing the black's bishops for the entire game. So this is trying to get a discovered attack, but black castles out of it, and white is just getting the pieces more active. So the rook over here targeting the isolated d pawn again. So this is a very common idea in isolated d pawn positions. The side playing against the isolated queen's pawn will try to blockade the pawn with their knights, or try to add pressure onto the pawn. Black wants to avoid trading off pieces and try to get a strong attack on the king. But here, I think
why does Black want to?
because this d pawn in an endgame will be a liability. It's not defended by any other pawns, so you are unable to, like, you likely be down a pawn in the endgame, because this d pawn will be lost if you don't have any more pieces to defend it with. Yeah. So this is, they call it inaccuracy, but you can see clearly why white wants to do that, because white wants to trade off as many pieces as possible to enter a stronger endgame. Oh, don't understand the idea for this.
The different Black bishop.
Right, because you can. Okay, I guess so. One possible move would have been this, but the problem with this move is that so by doing this, the queen attacks the bishop attacks the queen, so you need to move the queen out of the way. You can't take it with the rook either, because the knight will take it. So two defenders to attack. So trying to pin the knight to the queen. Queen just moves away. Knight still defends the bishop. And black is struggling here to find good moves, because the coordination of white's pieces are tying down a lot of black's activity. So because currently there's only one defender, and then by now there are two attackers.
But
Yeah.
the there was a point where the queen behind, like, yeah,
Was it?
not
It wasn't.
like ahead.
No.
What I want to see. Yeah, here.
This is later. I mean,
Like, yeah, why?
oh, you guys want to defend the bishop. Blunder. Why is this a blunder? It's not really it's a slight loss of advantage, but I don't really see how to capitalize on it. So f4 is best because just move. You guys get the bishop.
Because like the knight was yes, that made it.
Possibly, yeah. It is a very strong knight right now. So allowing the knight to be traded off seems to lose some of the advantage, because what you see here is a knight that has what is known as an outpost. It's defended by a pawn, and it cannot be attacked by any pawns. So this is a knight that is almost cemented into the enemy's behind the enemy lines. So a knight that is on outpost like this can be considered to be almost as strong as a rook. Yeah.
I better. So I'm still not able to like use square notation properly. So like I would have to type things by pointing or the relative position other pieces.
So the first round has ended already. We finished analyzing this game, then we look at the scores of the other players as well. So what move were you suggesting?
The bishop.
Yeah. The problem is that there are two attackers and then there's only one defender. So they recommended F4, F4. For the computer recommended F4 because you just want to gain as much space as possible. But I'm not sure this is very natural. So I think white just playing by the principles of playing IQP. You move the knight here. Isolate the queen's pawn.
Right.
Yeah, so playing against the IQP, you just want to trade off pieces as much as possible. This is a equal, like the knight was very strong here, but if you look at pure material, getting this knight traded off is just an equal trade of material. So this is not the line that was played in the game, but this could have been what happened. It would be a trade of the knight for the bishop, and then white is still slightly better. Nice. Not slightly, quite a bit better. So the only reason this was a blunder is because it traded away the strong knight that the computer evaluated as being worth 3 points, 3 points of advantage. But black is reluctant to trade away pieces as well. So seeing that the knight is attacking the queen, just move the queen out of the way of the attack. But this is a blunder as well, and we see why here with f3. Now the knight is knight trapped. Not good enough. These people are much stronger than me.
Oh yeah. We're talking about 0.5 size.
f3.
About 7.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. Knight Knight G5. Right, and I think the big thing. I can't pawn. I can't pawn takes.
Yeah, if the pawn takes, then
I'm trying to figure out the problem here. I hate hits. Right, no, because f4 is always coming. So yeah, like I was thinking why this move wasn't immediately played. It's like a pawn fork. So I think this is just an intermezzo. So yeah, white captures the knight and then black still has to respond to the fork. So the upcoming fork. So this is a very classy move. Like I would have just immediately played the pawn fork here, and I don't think it's much worse. Like knight takes c6 is very accurate. Knight takes c6. So black responds by getting out of the fork. Yeah, and threatening the rook. But now, wow, and you threaten the queen instead. So, wow, that's really high level. And white is just up an entire piece here and wins, and black resigns.
What could black have done better?
So when the trade was offered, just take the trade, because the problem of this, right, is that even in this previous move, right, instead of knight d4, the f pawn advancing has always been a problem. So in this case, it's amplified because you allow the fork, but why not move the knight here instead? Confused. This was, yeah. Knight takes c6. Bishop takes b2. What's the threat? Alright, so oh. Why can't you take the pawn? Why can't you take it? Because they infiltrate. The rook infiltrates because the knight moving here undefensive. The queen no longer defends the pawn. Wow. Okay, that's
can back to that.
Okay, so with this move, right, the actual move played in the game was this, which results in the pawn fork, correct?
Yeah.
However, if you play this, you no longer have the pawn fork, but you suffer another issue, which is knight takes c6 again, and if you take back with the pawn, notice the difference is that the knight being here instead of being here is that in over here it blocks the queen defending the pawn, so the rook is able to capture the pawn and infiltrate onto, and now this pawn is hanging. Everything collapses. Nothing is tied together. Bit too high level for me. Very strong positional game played by white over here. We have 9 viewers in the chat right now. Hello everyone.
Very crisp.
To watch this game. Yeah, okay. Take a look at it. Vincent, Kristen, who are these two people? Vincent and IHYE. Are they people that you know? If you're still in chat to answer that question. So what's so special about this game?
Game still?
No, it's finished already. So that's why you can see the analysis. So Queen's Gambit accepted. I don't know much about Queen's Gambit accepted, but
because it's a game played by two.
yeah. Like black is already, I don't know, somehow it's equal? What's happening? What?
Oh, you're the expert. What's happening? I'm not following.
I can only explain things when it's my openings, like the Karaoke game from the first game. F3, so has those. I mean, this is still simple development. I don't see what's wrong with this. The knight targeting the pawn, the bishop pinning the knight, trying to maintain the pin instead of taking the knight immediately. Now black gets a turn to pin the knight. That's the same thing, kicking the bishop, but instead of the bishop maintaining the pin, they go, "Pa, I'm gonna take the knight anyway." And then queen takes the bishop, but this undefends the pawn here.
Oh, but black did not take it. Or
no, black plays Black decides to play for a very aggressive looking move. Already castled kingside by opening the kingside even more. Bishop has to go back, trading the bishops away, and then finally the queen develops into the game, taking the pawn. But the position is evaluated as equal by the computer. I think because although black is up a pawn, their kingside is more exposed.
I'm quite could.
Yeah, true. But not immediately because the bishop is hanging. Yeah. So queen e5, trying to trade away queens. White does not go for that.
What did white do?
Bishop to b3
right.
to save the bishop. Yes. So queen here to offer the trade. But white wants to trade on their terms. So because if queen takes queen here, pawn takes queen, the rook opens up and targets the knight. So
nice.
yeah. So yeah, that's exactly what happened. So this knight is now under attack. King trying to get active to defend the knight as well. But adding another attacker to the knight.
Are they? It looks different.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like this is still equal. Okay.
Oh. Wow. What's happening? Oh my god.
Like the rooks are more active. Black has one.
Like the entire game is equal.
Yeah, this is a very accurate game from both sides, I would say. So moving this pawn. Why? Like it is defended by two things. I guess, but now the pawn structure gets ruined because of this move. So and now white has won back their pawn, and I would say white is slightly better actually. More active rooks, 2 pawn islands, while black has 3. So I think white can try to clean up on the queen side, and then try to get these 2 connected pass pawns and defending the pawn, but then adding another attacker, 2 defenders, 2 attackers, and then white creating a blockade, a single pawn stopping both of the advances. So this structure might look slightly worse than this, but the single pawn actually helps prevent the king from advancing and the pawns from advancing as well. So I guess a future move with black is preparing to play f5 to try to break open. I think just preemptively defending this? I have no idea. Just preventing the black from getting to the 7th rank. because white wants to get the king,
Right.
wants to get the king forward. So if they have moved the king first, it could have gotten checked and then, right? So
Right.
yeah, so if this, then you lose. You end up losing this pawn.
Yeah.
Trading away, and I think this is very advantageous for white already. I think the evaluation will be positive for white. Yes, okay. It's not equal. It's not 0-0. Computer is savage sometimes. Like, I would think, oh, this looks so good for white, and I open it up, oh, it's the dead draw. Rook e7 check. And it's very difficult to defend these two isolated pawns. Yep, so like you can try to push it up to get the rook to defend through X-ray, but then now you're targeting this again, and then you have to move the rook. Okay, black trying to go for some counterplay, attacking the pawns instead. Capturing, check, and then capturing again, and now this is a pass pawn. But it's not immediately death for black because the white rook is in front of the pawn rather than behind the pawn. So it's going to be a bit of a hindrance getting the pawn to the end of the board.
Right.
So white's king has to come in and support, but black's king is slightly more active.
What's that?
I have no idea. Endgame stuff. Is okay. Black has gotten.
I mean, the way it looks like me right now is that I have no clue what moves to make. I'm just gonna make a.
Both players are slightly low on time now. Oh wait, okay, second round has started. Okay, let's take a look at. Let's finish looking at this game then. White's king getting active. What?
At this point, like you have passed the petrol.
Yeah.
I don't know if
what is white doing? White doesn't know how to convert this position. It's you need to.
Are they out of time?
No. They both have
1 minute.
1 minute left, and it's a +10 game. So white just needs to get their king to defend the pawn and then get the rook out of the way. I'm not sure what's happening. I guess that works too. Right. Yeah. It's a create and then promote. Yeah, okay. So white manages to convert in the end. Somehow did not fall into a perpetual. Okay. That was thanks for sharing that game. Kristen.
Or white could have been like trying to rack up more time to figure out how to.
Okay. We'll take a look at that game later. Let's see who we want to look at right now. Previously, we saw the game of Tobias Lim and Yeo Wei Hao live. Maybe we can look at whoever we look at. We haven't looked at Onwards Hope actually. Marcus Tan from TP. So let's go take a look at that game. Yeah. So Onwards. Already in the end game. Onwards Hope needs to learn how to use their time. The game started with 15 minutes for both players, and Onwards Hope is somehow at 18 minutes.
But I mean, they're also in 15.
Yeah, I think it's just this. In my days, I mean, I started playing chess last year, but younger players they just blitz out moves, and somehow they're still accurate. So I'm like,
yes, you're an old woman.
I'm an old woman. So this is semi-Slav? Yeah. So black offers draw.
So early? Oh right. It
is quite drawish. It's opposite colors, bishop and game, but okay, white's king is
black not.
Okay, no. The thing about opposite color endgames, right, is that even if one side is up like 2 pawns, it can sometimes still be a theoretical draw, because the problem is that because the bishops are opposite color, right? Your bishop is unable to unable to defend your own pawn as they advance on the opposite colors bishop squares. So it's very difficult to advance your own pawn. So this does look like a theoretical draw, yes. Like black has formed this mini fortress here with the
what's an
opposite colored bishop endgame. So the bishops, you notice, are on opposite colored squares.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is what I just explained. So when because the bishops are is on the opposite color of the enemy bishop, that means whenever your pawns enter, let's say if white's pawns enter the light squares, right? Your bishop isn't a defender of those pawns. Yeah. White is offering the draw. White declined the draw previously, but not White is now offering the draw. So Black has declined the draw because I think Black is actually slightly better now because of the two passed pawns, and it's very difficult for White to make progressive. White should have been careful about giving up these two pawns over here. They were very important negotiation leverage, I think. It looks drawish to me. Like you can't progress this. White will now push this, and drop the bishop back. Right. Oh, Black just gave up the bishop because Black is going to queen. Yeah, Black is going to queen this pawn because the bishop is the wrong color. So no, Black's winning. Yeah, Black's winning this. That was very accurate. Wow. Yeah, just giving up the bishop because Black calculated that. Oh, okay. Like if they take the bishop, they can't stop me from queening the pawn. Oh.
But even if they're not, like, I mean, Black could.
No, as a black. Yeah, you can just drop the bishop. Yeah. And White has resigned.
But would that have prevented Black from queening?
Would that have prevented Black from queening? Yeah, I think so. Because there's this move. Bishop pinning the pawn to the king. Then White would have their own pawn to push, and then
right.
Yeah. Okay, onwards hope. That was a very interesting endgame, but please don't end the game with 18 minutes left on the clock. They still won. No, they lost.
They lost? Oh.
Onwards hope is White.
Oh shit.
And Onwards hope was also the one who declined the draw in the first place.
Ouch.
Right. My condolences, yes. Okay, back to the tournament. Who else is still playing? Let's look at the girls. The woman there.
For under 20? For university. In all of the JC level stuff, like are still.
So here we have King's Indian defense. Here is very nice is black, so let's take a look from the black side. U is very nice.
It's Chenxi.
Not someone in the Varsity Chess Alliance. An enemy freaking. So we're all friends in the Singapore chess community. So King's Indian defense is a funny thing about this opening is that Stockfish really dislikes this opening. Like when you play the main lines, right, it gives white an advantage of almost +1. The reason is that engines like space a lot, and in the King's Indian defense you tend to give up a lot of space. It's a very hyper modern positional slow opening. You break open the king side after you get all your pieces set up. So white tends to look a lot better near the start of the game, but you need to play very accurately as white to really consolidate the advantage in space, because something that might happen is that you might overextend your pawn.
Engine like there are
Yeah, black just playing very solidly. The pawns are in positions to just prevent any counterplay. I don't see any obvious pawn breaks for white as well to kind of make use of that space advantage. And black's pieces aren't necessarily starved for space either. Look at the two bishops, they're actually quite strong on their diagonals. And black managed to trade off one of the strong white bishops on the dark squares. Yeah, and then black is now the one claiming space on the queen side. And white has not castled yet, so the bishop getting chased twice by the knight, by the pawn and the knight. And suddenly now black has a lot of play on the queen side as well. So getting the bishop out here was to, I think it's to connect the queen and the rooks together. Getting the rook over here, trying to break. Okay, so black is preparing to break open the center now. So white wasn't able to consolidate that space advantage in the beginning, and black now has the initiative.
right.
Now we see the c5 break. Trying to defend the pawn with the two knights over here, but still taking anyway because now black has a semi-open file.
I was just...
Yeah.
So this is another 2005
yes.
matchup.
We won't see the ratings really level out until maybe after our. So we'll be commentating the first 3 rounds only. Then after the lunch break, we have 2 other commentators from SiVCA commentating, Kelvin and Andrew. Who's the second commentator? Kelvin and Andrew, yes. Kelvin and Andrew will be commentating in the afternoon. So the nature of Swiss tournaments is that during the first round you have very mismatch pairings. Some of the lower rated players will win their games, and then they'll suddenly get paired against much higher rated players that won their first games as well. So we'll see that mismatch for the first 2 to 3 rounds, and then you even out after the lunch break, I think. So here we are just seeing somewhat uneven games, but still very pretty to see because very accurate plays by the stronger players. Wow. Yeah. Look at this.
Happening?
Look at this. Okay. So
please tell me.
Okay.
Why are you saying
so
wow?
After rook takes bishop, right?
Yeah.
The rook's very active right now. Is both targeting this weak C pawn and also X-raying the knight to target the weak E pawn, and this X-ray will be crucial for the upcoming moves. So white protects the weak C pawn and also in return as a defender to the knight, correct?
Yeah.
Then attack. Yeah, and plus this is just a very active diagonal for the queen as well. Right. And now the rook can also swing in behind the other rook to double up.
What makes it active?
So in its previous position, it was kind of staring at nothing. It was staring at its own pawns, or the side of the board. But over here, after moving here, not only attacks the knight. If the knight ever moves away, you're targeting the king directly. So, it's just you don't see any immediate tactics, but you create the opportunities for tactics. Because if the queen is lined out against the king, right, there might be a chance 5 moves down the line the opponent makes a mistake that allows you to utilize that direct attacking line towards the king. Yeah. So
things that make it active. Diagonal.
Like it's kind of like if you play more games, you realize that there are certain patterns and positions where the pieces can do the most work. So I wouldn't say that there's anything concrete about choosing where the best position for a piece is, but in this case, I guess Eunice determined that by having the queen on that square, there is the most chance for tactics in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Plus, it's very nice. It's a defensive piece as well. If you see that the pawn over here was undefended before, and the rook now is open as well to be doubled up on the c file. So this bishop move is interesting, trying to redirect towards the e pawn over here. Yeah.
I think Eunice is black, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Eunice knows that they're playing someone who's lower rated. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe she decided that point trading down. Try to look.
Very, very accurate. I think that even against a stronger players just generally look for the best move, and the best move leads to me. So so trying to add another defender to the e pawn over here. But the problem is that the queen as a defender is...
Was the queen not already?
I have no idea actually. What was the point of this move? Not very certain. But
maybe they wanted to move out into the diagonal on the other side. Because they're kind of...
that's fair, yeah. But look at this move. E5, and the knight is actually he's defending the pawn by body blocking it basically. So the knight moves out of the way, and then rook now takes the pawn with a skewer.
Should the knight move?
Not that I can see here, but it doesn't do too much. Maybe you can go here in the future. Here as well, but I guess here is good. Which one?
Oh,
this one?
Yeah.
You lose a piece. Here you just lose a pawn, and you get fucked. You lose a knight. Yeah. So Eunice is up an entire piece. The game is... oh my god, the game is very long. Okay, so
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. 1,500. He's putting on a good fight. Good. What's happening? I just saw rooks moving one square, one square, one square, one square.
Both sides are saying, you trade with me. No, you trade with me. White, no, black is saying, come on, you wanna trade, you wanna trade. And then white saying, no, I'm down a piece, I don't want to trade. So black is like, okay, then white is like, oh no, okay, maybe I just give more checks. Then here, okay, but I don't actually want to trade, so I'm going back here. So, and then defending the 7th rank against the rook invasion. Yeah. Oh, they end up trading anyway. Okay. So this is a slow grind for Eunice to convert. The king gets into a very good square. Yep. And this is the current state of the game. Oh, that was tricky because if you had taken the pawn, right, this becomes a passive.
If what had
if
black had taken the pawn.
Yeah, then white will take with white will take back, and then white's king can try to support the pawn down. But I think it still wouldn't have worked because this bishop is the correct color to stop the queening. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Black just gives up the bishop for the last white pawn and prevents any chance of counterplay for white. And
white is
just playing on. Yes.
Oh.
White has resigned. Okay. White wanted to see the queen come out first, and then they resign. Yeah. Okay. Good game by Eunice, as usual. Sarang Durga as well has won their second game. And Sarang Durga is actually now Sarang Durga is now actually considered first place because 2
Do
points.
Do they have a lower rating? Like, why are they first versus?
Eunice and Sarang Durga are first right now. First and second with 2 points each. Sarang Durga has a tiebreak 2. Eunice.
So how are tie breaks?
The number of points your opponents have.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So
Sarang Durga has higher rated.
Not say higher rated, but opponents who have done better so far in the tournament.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was Sarang Durga's second game. Yeah, against Yamcat. Yamcat. Oh, is it Yarn Cat? It's Yarn Cat. Yeah.
Yarn. Oh, okay. That's cute. Not Yam.
Yeah, but it sounds like.
So I'm wearing sunglasses because.
What is this? It's a Sicilian. It's an Alpine Sicilian. Let's just go into the analysis board because I'm not smart.
Because you have not studied. Kira does some like test practices that I call 10 years.
It's the woodpecker method for those who are in the know. So the idea is that
even if you're not in the know, call it the. Yes.
So Sarang Durga here is actually playing black. So let's flip the board. Get my mouse to work. So Sarang Durga playing against the Alpine Sicilian. Apparently we're out of theory already. I don't actually know what's happening. In the master database, no one has played this move. I guess in the Lichess database, more players will have played this move. But I'm pretty sure this isn't accurate. Black is already equalized. Yeah, slightly better actually. Which shouldn't be the case of like a theoretical opening. So like this feels a bit time wasting. Like this push and then later on the D pawn is pushed again. If I have done so immediately.
Maybe they did so they could.
Plausibly, but you are you are losing one tempo to allow the black to develop one of their own pieces as well. So you see, black gets the castle relatively quickly, while white does have a very strong center. I would say black has equalized because of their development, and it's very easy development for the rest of the game as well. So going for aggressive, targeting the bishop because I mean bishops and knights are both the same, but if you can trade away your knight for their bishop, usually it's not too bad a trade. But I am not sure what the point of the knight being is. Is to they didn't immediately take the bishop, so I guess they won't take it until they are provoked to. Right, because here if you take the knight instead, you can take this pawn with check, and things get a bit hairy. So white decides to target a knight with the pawn, but here black now chooses to take the bishop, because the only way to take back the knight is with the pawn, which will ruins white structure. If white instead chooses to take this knight over here with the pawn, black can take the G pawn with check, and this ruins white's king side, and the knight can actually safely escape. Yeah, so white decides to take with this pawn instead and move here. So I think black is trying to go down into an endgame where these pawns in the center are fairly easy targets.
Oh, white castle.
Taking, right?
Yeah.
Like, all moving. No, I think it's just.
Is it?
No, I think it's just a mistake. Look at how fast white played that move. White played that move in move times. White played the move in 6.6 seconds. So didn't. It wasn't a pre-move, because if it was a pre-move,
no, I don't mean pre-move.
Like white wanted to castle already and didn't think about the threats that was made by this knight move, correct? Yeah. Like Rowan as this just hangs the bishop entirely. So I think this should be a fairly easy game for Durga, 2200 rated. Yeah, trading down into an endgame with a piece up. Wow. Why? I don't understand.
No.
Yarn Cat is 1800. How are they missing?
Yes.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
What are the ratings?
Their rapid rating. So this is 15 plus 10 because this 18 16 it should be their rating for this kind of time controls. 15 plus 10, 10 plus 5. So the problem is that Young Cat doesn't seem to be using their time once again. So you can see the time differential. Daga is at 5 minutes left, while Young Cat is at nearly their original timing, 14:50, 45. So once again, this move was played nearly instantaneously, just targeting the bishop, but it just misses the bishop attacks on the other rook as well. Getting onto the 7th rank and targeting pawns. It's a very look at all these one mover attacks. It's like previously the rook attacking the bishop misses the bishop attacks the rook. The king attacking the rook misses that. The king was the defender of this pawn. So and now it gets skewered, loses the rook, and I don't see a reason to play on. And let's checkmate, ladder mate. Yeah. Didn't even have to get a new queen up. That was a very decisive game by Durga. How are our viewers doing?
Yeah, has had bread? It's Sunday. You should have had bread.
Right. Let's take a look at. I mean, we wait for them to answer, but no one has answered yet. So, this is your first time commentating chess games with me, right? How are you finding it?
I see pieces.
You see pieces of the game. Okay. Fine. Second round seems to be nearly over. There are only 7 more games going on in the open section, while there are 2 games going on in the women's section, the girls section. Cabbage is meh. The player that we were looking at in the first round is currently still playing their game. Let's take a look. Who else is currently still playing?
Any interesting games that you guys are watching and like to play?
Yeah, just like Kristen shared an interesting game previously. Like you can do the same for. Cabbage is meh still playing. New player won their second game against Denzel Pereira. Denzel Pereira. Which other Big 3 won their second game? Okay. Onwards Hope is currently not having a great first 2 rounds. Hopefully that changes, the luck changes for the third round. Hopefully they can use a bit more time during their games. Okay, Cabbage is meh, is down a piece and down on time, but let's see if he can hold up. I'll take the bot. Let's look at this position. So targeting the queen, but I think like white should just trade away. The problem is that the knight is the defender of the rook, so I guess a equal trade of queens be in white's best interest, because white is currently up an entire piece. So I'm expecting white goes for the check instead. But the problem is that now there's knight takes rook. I would just say knight takes rook. Yeah. That just happened. Queen takes. Why did? Why?
Wait, and then go for.
Yeah. Wait, what? Why? There's no. Oh, they're trying to queen. They're trying to queen.
Oh.
Wait. Let's go. Cabbage is meh.
Wait. What's the point of giving up the queen? Oh,
because now it's attacking the. Yeah.
Right.
And the rook and the queen are I'm not sure it works, but that's a very, if it works, it'll be a very pretty sacrifice. Wow. Does it work? Okay, so king takes knight. What happens after king takes knight? King takes knight. Is that the 2 knights actually cover a lot of squares that prevent a mate from happening, I think. You have to somehow get the king over to the side of the board, but there's not a lot of support from that side.
Why do you?
No, you're gonna get like black wants to get the white king over to the side of this board,
Right.
away from the support of the white pieces,
Right.
to try to get a checkmate in. So white taking their time because they are up on time. So king takes knight happens. Let's see what black's plan here is if they calculated past this point. Check. Check. Okay. Like after all those exchanges, white is only up 1 point of material. 2 minor pieces for rook. So that was a very brilliant sacrifice by black. Down one minor piece, yeah. So I was expecting the knight just take rook, and then after pawn takes knight, there'll be a difference of one point of material. Then queen takes pawn, and then queen takes queen, king takes.
Why knight takes?
Because the pawn defends the rook. So
yes.
Yeah.
And then the black knight.
Yeah, that's a plausible line as well. But in that case, black. In that case, white remains up a piece as well, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So after this, all right. Yeah, I think that's a legitimate line as well. So, okay, let's see whether. Okay.
So, we see the if.
Okay, but I want to see what happens in the game.
In real.
Yeah, in real time, because this is very exciting. I think white's king.
What was...
Okay, so after king takes knight, white is trying to run to the other side of the board, but now the black rook covers the escape line. White's king is kind of cornered here, and it's check. So here, yeah, is that mate? See it. Heck. Yeah. Oh no, there are no more checks. The problem is that white pieces are very glued together. That's, yeah. Trying to pin the knight. King. But the problem now is that this is going to advance. How do you stop that from queen? You can, like...
The king.
No, the queen covers the diagonal. Yeah. The rook can't come down also because you realize that the queen covers the diagonal as well. Oh, okay. Oh no. That would have been beautiful. Oh my god. That would have been incredible.
Oh my god, Cavendish Mare is a higher rating than...
Yeah, very good game by Rodka. Cavendish Mare found some that I'm not sure if that move was the best move, like queen takes, but queen takes e6 was not the best move, but yeah, rook e6 check is definitely a blunder. Like it would have been simple to just take the queen. I'm not sure why white went for this very complicated line. Yeah. So like the best move in that position would have been to... It is indeed queen takes e6. The problem with knight takes e6 is d takes e6, queen h7. Okay, so So yeah,
Okay.
the primary knight takes rook is d takes e6, and
Uh-huh.
then you have to no, you get knight d5 check, knight d5 check. Yeah. Oh, knight d5 check. Oh, and after king f7, you get queen takes b7 check. Wow.
Oh.
Okay. So just not forcing enough if you take with the knight. So queen takes e6 indeed is the best move. Then after d takes e6, black is actually winning in this position. Like black is winning in this position. What an incredible position. Like
So black should be.
Black should no, like Cabbage is may found the best move in the position, which is knight takes f3 check.
Oh. Right.
Knight takes b3 is also winning for black, but slightly less accurate. But I think it
not be
yeah, I think it would be
deal
simpler.
with?
Yeah, it would have been a simpler position to play, right? Yeah. Like
I mean you know I don't know what.
yeah. What a brilliant series of moves. If this had won the game, I think this would have been game of the tournament. Yeah. Like the computer is struggling to try to calculate what is most accurate. You have to go wait for it, like you wait for it to go higher depth, and then it will slowly change the evaluation. So in this position, queen g2 check, correct? King e3. And here's the move that loses the win. Rook h8 is somehow right. Rook h8, and then getting the check in using the rook instead would have been most accurate. So rook h8, and then now the knight actually doesn't defend the checking square. Just not enough time, I suppose. So a possible move order would have been knight d5 check, and then king g5, king d3, queen f1 check, preventing escape along this diagonal. So the king is stuck moving to this square or this square. King c3, queen e1 check, king d3, rook h2.
Where is black?
I don't think like black just stays here because it's safe. There's no checks available.
No, shuffle white's king.
I think black needs to prevent white from ever entering the fourth rank. So
but how do you?
Yeah, so you can. You see, after queen f1 check, this pawn covers this square, the queen covers this square. So the king moves here, and then you move the queen to e1 check, and now this covers this square, this covers this square, and
but
you can go
back.
What?
King
Yeah. So move back to the left, and now you bring the rook in for the attack, rook h2, and then it's this why not immediately rook h3 check? Because of knight f e3. Wow, if you rook e3 check, knight f e3 is winning for white now. Because the king escapes. Because the king escapes. Then the knights are glued together. Wow. Most accurate is rook h2, knight d e3. Rook d2 check. King c4. Queen e2 check. King b4.
No, I can't deal.
This is insane.
This series of
it is insane. Computers are savage. Queen takes a5 check. Queen a4. Rook d3 check. b3. Queen c3.
What was preventing white queen?
It's check, it's check. Queen c3, queen c4, queen a1 check, king b4.
Kira, this is impossible.
This is impossible.
Do this.
Yes, it's crazy.
Okay, I mean some humans can.
Some humans can,
not
but
the here
that
who
is
are mortal.
that is a crazy cool game. That is so cool. Good job on Cabbage's man from finding with 1 minute left on the clock. The best series of moves to punish rook e6 check, because there's only one move. Queen takes e6 is the only move that doesn't result in a complete crushing victory by white. Like if this had ended up in a victory, woo, woo, woo. Exciting chess. Next round starts in 10 minutes. I'm starring this game because so new player JY from TP. Just moving. Okay, so it's Italian opening, 2 knights defense. Nothing out of the ordinary here, but now you've trapped your bishop behind your pawn chain, so not as accurate. I also don't know why this one is inaccuracy. Knight g5 apparently is the best move. Oh, so going for a kind of fright liver setup. Yeah. And this has a very strong win rate for white because black has wasted a tempo playing d6 already. So there's a slight difference in the position. Because now white also got to play d3 as well, which allows the bishop to come up to the attack faster. Yeah, interesting. g5, h3, and trading away the bishop for the knight. Attacking the queen. Queen goes back to d1 and d5 now. Seems a bit premature. Pawn takes, knight takes. And your 2 knights in the center are a bit unwieldy. They're gonna get chased around by pieces. The knight jumps back. Queen now targets both. So now both knights are in trouble because there's 2 attackers here, 1 defender, and this has no defenders and 1 attacker. So both your knights are hanging at this point. So you have to move the knight back to defend this knight. So now queen and knight defending this knight. Rook e1 targeting the weak pawn. Queen trying to defend the weak pawn. d4 adding another attacker to the pawn. Taking the pawn is a mistake because I have no idea, because the king in the center is too dangerous. It's currently lined up. By taking the pawn, you are now the knight is pinned. So bishop takes is now fine because there's only 1 defender. Yeah. And then the queen and bishop are lined up, so this comes to check. King here, and then very active play by JY. Bishop attacking the queen, developing with tempo, and here the queen is trying to take the bishop because
why? Fuck.
Oh, wrong square. Wrong square.
I'm doing the 500.
So queen here, bishop just retreats back, and white is up a clean piece with a much better development. Black has black gets to win a pawn back, but the knight develops as well, and now the rooks defend each other. So this pawn is defended as well by the queen. So pawn takes, and this so an even bigger issue with taking this pawn is that this king and the queen are lined up. So when you see the king and queen lined up, something you need to always you need to take note of is to not allow it to get skewered. So black Brand King C8 was the best because it prevents checkmate, but Queen takes check. So there's supposedly a checkmate in 8 from this position, but no one's gonna find that. So Queen takes C3. Yeah. And Knight G6 is just wrong because it hangs a mate in 1. Bishop and Queen both target the square. So this is mate in 1. Very dominating game by new player 345 against Denzel Pereira 20. Pereira. I don't know.
Kira, those are different.
Okay. Pereira. Okay.
Kira was making a reference.
No, I'm not making a reference.
Okay.
I just like saying it that way.
Okay. Likes to try to sound, but it's Spanish, but I think it's actually.
Great. Okay. Alright. All the games for the second round have ended. And I think have we covered everyone from the second round? Fortress Trap pulled out. We've covered Cabbage's Mare, we covered Eunice, we covered new player 345, we covered Onwards Hope. We haven't looked at Fake Tree, so we can take a quick look at Fake Tree's second round game. Fake Tree managed to win this game before the third round starts. And this was... what is this? Elephant Gambit.
Knights at...
What?
A Knights at...
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know what the... What is that?
Run.
So best move in the position is QE because it pins the pawn to the king, so you can't, the pawn can't take the knight.
Right.
Yeah. So knight G1, and looks like white. Both players are setting up for their next games. Knight F6. Knight C3. Knight takes D5. Knight takes D5 as well. Queen takes D5. It just looks like a very equal position to me. D3, F5. Both players like pushing their pawns at inopportune moments. Bishop E2, bishop, knight C6, and BF4 is a blunder. Why is BF4 a blunder? Because of let's see why it's a blunder.
Take bishop. I get the F pawn.
Don't develop here. I'm just looking for B6. I don't think I don't think this is explainable by me at least. So BF4, knight D4. Trying to target the bishop. Bishop takes C7 because the pawn looks like it's hanging. But the problem with this move is that now there's Queen C6, and where's the bishop gonna go? One here, I guess. Oh, the problem is now with Queen C6, it not just attacks the bishop, but it also threatens a knight fork. Knight takes C2 forks the rook and the king. Yeah, and then you if you take with the queen, of course, the queen takes back. Are down a queen. So trying to prevent the knight fork while attacking the knight as well. But black just takes the bishop, and now white is down a piece. So this is a trade off the knight that's under attack for the bishop, and then black can take the bishop that was just hanging over there. How did white end up winning this game?
Even...
What? Weird opening. Very strange. Like the main issue was not bf4, but rather bishop takes c7
right.
is
in what looks like a hit.
Yeah, it looks like greedy, but the problem is that with a single move, black creates two weaknesses. Yeah, and that's how we reach that position. Castles, queen d7. I understand this move. Not sure why it's targeting. Not defending anything either. Computer prefers bg4 instead, which makes sense. Pinning the rook, pinning the knight, and if you take the knight as well, you have to take the pawn, because if you take the queen, the rook takes the queen. So queen d7, not sure what's that. Rook a d1, yeah, because the queen leaves the safety of the c file, so might as well attack it with a rook to gain a tempo. Queen e6, queen takes e6 check, bishop takes e6. Black is still completely winning, but somehow white manages to win this game in the end. So rook fe1, f6, knight d4, king f7, getting the king active. f3, taking the free pawn is fine. b3. No, yeah, you can get it out with this move. Yeah. So knight targeting the bishop here because only the king defends it. And rook e8 to defend the bishop is an inaccuracy. Best would have been moving the bishop out of the attack entirely with tempo. A check. Rook e8 is a bit too defensive, but black is still better here. Rook d7.
Same color black.
Same color rook. Same color rook. I commented? Okay, right. So black manages to continue holding the advantage up to this point. Both players are playing incredibly fast. This seems to be a very common thing that we're seeing in this 15 plus 10 rapid tournament. Black still has 15 minutes on the clock after 26 moves, so they've used an average of 10 seconds per move. You see the inaccuracies jumping up at us right now, and the advantage starts to slip away with white having both of the rooks on the 7th rank. And here the bishop is hanging, but it's still not the end of the world. But the problem now is that with rook e7, you end up just straight up losing a piece. So now white has not just equalized, but is now winning, because the pawn, this passed pawn and this pawn majority will defend against these two pawns here. And this rook can get behind its own passer, and white is suddenly now winning. And looks like that is indeed what happened with this wall of pawns over here, preventing any advance from black. They'll just push the pawn d6, because if you trade off rooks, the king gets out of the action too much, and then you can start getting a pass pawn here yourself. So king f5, g4 check, hg4, king f4 and rook e4 mate. Wow, okay. And black got hung mate in one with 14 minutes on the clock. Okay, like this is going to be like I feel like a nagging old woman over here, but try to use your time more. You have 15 minutes plus 10 seconds. You are in a completely winning position, and after you started losing, you still continue to not use your time. So I'm not sure what's happening here. Good job by Fake Tree for holding out until the tides turned and they won that game. And now we are in the third and final morning round for the game. After this, there will be a lunch break, and we will be having commentators Kelvin and Andrew taking over us. So let's see. Let's take a look at the girls' games first. Saran Durga and Eunice are both currently in the top 2 spots in their tournaments. Very dominating performance by both of them. And wow, they are playing against each other now because they are the only 2 players with 2 points. So this should be an interesting matchup. How did this game start out? Let's take a look. D4 and F6. T4, E6 going for a Nimzo setup. Knight C3, and we do not get a Nimzo. We get C5 instead. What is this opening? I don't actually know this. Nimzo sideline. Indian defense normal variation. Okay, I don't know what the idea of this move is. C5, D5. Doesn't this go into a somewhat Benoni setup? E takes D5, C takes D5. Yeah, it transposes into a Benoni defense. What? Okay, that's a very interesting transposition by Saran Durga. So, yeah, if E takes D5, C takes D5, D6, and F3, G6, Knight D2. Still fairly standard stuff. So, Knight B D7, G3, Bishop G7, D2. So white trying to hold on to the D pawn over here. Castles, rook E8, and A4. Going for a queenside expansion. So Saran Durga going for a queenside expansion. Eunice went into the Benoni. I think I've heard that Eunice does like to go into the Benoni defense. So I'm personally not very good at explaining the ideas behind the Benoni defense, but let's see how this goes. So black planning to add another attacker onto the d5 pawn. And white can't really utilize this long diagonal because of the d5 pawn. So that's quite interesting. So I'm expecting black to go bishop b7 next, along with perhaps a knight reroute to knight f8, adding yet another attacker to... Oh, sorry, that doesn't make sense. So should be there are currently 2 defenders on the pawn. Knight, bishop, 2 attackers, and possibly we can have the rook out here to add yet another attacker to the pawn. So let's see how the game progresses from here. In the meantime, we can look at some of the other games as well. So the 2 girls from Varsity Chess are playing against each other because of the top 2 and the standings right now. But let's take a look at the open section. Fabish Ismet is currently the highest up one of our varsity players in the open section. Victory is also doing quite well. Let's take a look at the other games. New player 3, 4, 5. And I believe we have one more player right at the end over here. Oh. Onwards hope. Onwards hope once again with more time than they started with. Let's hope it doesn't end the same way as the previous games. Let's take a look at Cabbage's mare with the E4 Sicilian, 2 Knight Sicilian, and then looks like the accelerated dragon. Yep. So takes F3. Very clean development so far. I think this is still theory. Okay. Nothing too crazy going on in this game right now. Let me go grab some water first. Can you pass me the bottle on the table? Starting to lose steam. It's the last round really. Victory up a pawn here. Let's see how that happened. Knight f3, righty opening, c6, d4, d5, g3, d takes c4. So this has transposed into English opening. Knight f6. Goes g6, a4, bishop e6, knight g5. 5. So black up a pawn. And this the black pawn on d3 looks like it's gonna cause a lot of headaches for white's development here. So trying to get the bishop out now. This is big space advantage for black. Knight out. Creating the bishops away. And where does this knight go? Possibly here, trying to target this pawn. I'm thinking knight f6. I think knight f6 is the best move. Like I was looking at another possibility of b5, but the problem is that after a takes b, c takes b, you end up with the rook staring at the semi-open a file, which is positive for white. So black, it does indeed go for knight f6. But replies with knight e5, trying to get active, blockading the two isolated double pawns, and targeting this pawn as well. So this seems like enough compensation for the how's everyone doing? Okay, so what will you play as black here? So the pawn is being targeted, of course. I don't think you can hold on to it. So just trying to go for development, yes. And then after knight takes pawn, you can bring the rook over to the semi-open file. 6, yeah. And then think that will indeed be the series of moves that will happen. Noob player currently up a pawn as well. So let's take a look at this. I'm assuming rook here. Oh, but the problem is that there's this move which creates too many weaknesses. So I don't think you can centralize the rook yet. You need to. Where did the game go? Oh no, I closed it. Right, so removing the weakness of the C pawn and targeting this pawn as well. So I'm assuming takes will happen, or white can try to lock down the structure here. Let's take a look at the Ghost games again. Let's see. NSI Sarandaka versus you. Very nice. Where were we previously? Okay, so instead of playing bishop b7 like I expected, black is going for a bit of inside expansion with a6. A6 I think is also to prevent knight b5 from coming in. Because knight b5 can be quite annoying, targeting the weak d6 pawn over here, the backwards d6 pawn. So a6 is a prophylactic move. I think the next move will then be bishop b7. So back to Victory's game. After knight takes c5, and c5 is met with yes. Okay, we already saw the possibility of e5. The knight jumps over to d5, and this I do not like that move by white. It undoubles black's pawns and gives up the very crucial Fancato bishop on covering the light square, the long diagonal over there. So I think this shouldn't be too difficult for Victory to convert now because black's structure is significantly better. With this knight move, they were going River the Nuts looked like they were trying to go to target d5, but a simple okay, this doesn't work because you get the pawn taken as well. One thing you could try attempting. Okay, I'm gonna try to think a bit before I open my mouth more. So the problem was the fork, right? So King H8 is to prevent the fork from happening. So white ends up getting to take the d5 pawn anyway. And white should be winning a pawn here. Oops. My evaluation of the position was not accurate. No, I think white can do this. After taking on d5 instead of immediately capturing on. Oh, white goes for b takes c first. So I'm assuming trying to go for B takes C. If B takes C, then knight takes D. Okay, knight takes D, knight takes C instead. Knight takes D6. And white gets this very nice up on F6, but white instead prefers to solidify the central control along with attacking the pawn here, the knight here. So I think black can play knight e4 because f3 is not possible because it hangs the g pawn. Yeah, I think knight e4 is the most active move here. Knight e4, knight takes d5. And you can play no, you can, yeah, you can play rook d8, and then you end up winning this pawn in the end. Okay. So the game between Sarandurga and you is very nice. Has progressed a bit more. My idea of bishop b7 obviously was not Eunice's idea. Eunice just went for a slower queenside attack than I expected, and here opening up the queenside, but the knight jumps in to target the weak d6 pawn, and I don't see an amazing way to proceed with this position for Eunice. Let's see. Knight f8, passive looking move, but oh, so we've already proceeded to b4, attacking the knight instead. So knight takes knight, and then The problem is that the pawn can't take the knight yet because the pawn is pinned to the rook. The rook's undefended at this point. So bishop takes pawn. Looks like a sacrifice, but it actually it's not a sacrifice because the queen now defends the rook. So if bishop takes bishop, b takes c3, and you win the knight along with tempo on the queen. So queen takes d3, queen takes c3. Okay, let's take a look at the analysis here. So here bishop takes h3, b takes c3, queen takes c3. And knight takes d5. Wow, with a double attack on the queen. And then die position collapses, I think. Wow, that's a very interesting position. So bishop didn't take. Instead, the knight jumps back to prevent that line from happening, and Eunice has managed to win the H pawn with a very, very heavily calculated line, I believe. Wow, that was impressive play by Eunice. So Eunice trying to remove White's control of most active piece by getting the rook was forced to take because you either take or you move to rook b1, and that's not a very good square for the rook. The problem is that there isn't a way for White to create a defender for the rook as well. So by trading away those rooks, the Black now has control over both of the semi-open files and the completely open A file, of course. White's pieces are fairly inactive. White's bishop is stuck behind the pawns, White's own pawns. The knight now needs to try to jump in, but yeah, and Black is now up 2 clean pawns. And this pawn is now hanging. The knight jumps out of the way, probably to... There was a cool tactic here.
Hi.
Yeah, he's
Sorry,
back.
there was an emergency. Oh. Hi.
Okay. So look at this cool tactic. Here Black to move, and Black plays bishop takes h3. Looks like it just hangs the bishop, right? Like for a pawn. But I show you the reason why you can't take back, because the problem here is that this pawn is attacking this knight, right? But the pawn can't take the knight because it's pinned to the rook currently.
Yeah.
The rook isn't defended by anything.
Yeah.
So bishop takes h3 now allows the queen to defend the rook. So if you do bishop takes h3 again with white, b takes c3 is now a potential idea, right. And then after queen takes c3, because the rook was being attacked, then yes, now the knight takes the d5 pawn, and it's a double attack on the queen, and the entire position collapses.
Time position.
So you have to move the queen, right? So the
no, actually I would move it yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
No, here is very bad. I can show you why this is bad, because knight takes. So the knight is attacking the rook, right? Then the rook defends the knight, so you can't take it back. You can't take back the knight. Yeah, so you need to leave the bishop as one of the
Right.
first defenders of the pawn. Yeah, so plausibly here.
But you don't.
I mean, there are two defenders.
No, the other pawn.
This one?
Yes.
Defended by 1 but attacked by 2. Yes, so that's a massive problem as well. So I don't, maybe here?
Here.
Here?
Yeah.
Oh, I can show you why. Oh, because after bishop takes, right? Bishop takes, knight fork. Yeah, so you deflect the, because this bishop is overloaded.
Right.
It's defending these 2 points.
Right. Yeah, but in general, why does the what would it import?
I think it's just that black, like the way I would put it, the way I'm viewing this is that black gets too much activity. White keeps getting the queen chased, and the pawns are all too weak. Yeah, so there's no real way for black to really target black's weak pawns, because their pieces, white's pieces are less active, I would say, and white loses the initiative because of the queen getting targeted.
What's the ooh. What letters? 5.
Then the queen takes it. Yeah, and then you lose this pawn because there's only one defender left. So I'm gonna show you queen takes, and so these 2 pawns are just very weak in that position. Yeah. Let's see what happens later in the game. They're still playing.
What happened?
So white didn't go into that line. White saw that if bishop takes bishop, the entire position collapses, so instead drops the knight back to prevent b takes c from happening.
Right.
So bishop takes, king takes, and then Eunice wins a pawn. Yeah, because the bishop took on h3. Yeah. So then Eunice consolidates the advantage by trying to remove white's best piece right now, which is the rook on open file. And the problem is that white is forced to take the rook because there's no way to defend the rook on a in time. Yeah, so rook takes, queen takes, and now black has the open a, the only open file in the game, and also the long diagonal targeting this pawn as well. White doesn't.
Actually,
yeah.
What if white move upward?
So like this? Plausible as well, yeah. But then black unlike white is not forced to take, right?
Yeah.
Because what the rook is already defended.
And it's fine if they don't.
Yeah.
So white would.
Okay, so here's the problem with that. Okay, I just realized the problem with that. So you want rook here.
Yeah.
Problem is then knight takes, because now the queen is overloaded. So if you queen takes, then you rook takes rook. Yeah. So there's no real way to defend this pawn. There's like 2 attackers, the queen and the knight. You can't push e4 to defend the pawn because it's just simply knight takes e4. So white gave up the d4 pawn and is traded queens off, and now black is up with 2 clean pawns. And it's just a very hard endgame for white to play, I believe. And white as well has a time disadvantage at the moment. So this is Eunice versus Sarandaga. So the top 2 players. Yeah. So Eunice just getting pieces traded off, and yeah, I don't see much counterplay for white at this point. There is a check here. I don't think it does anything, but there is a check there. He check must play check. Patzer sees check, Patzer plays check. Closing up the entire pawn formation, and like it's just now going to be able to focus their attention on just getting this pawn down and getting queened. The rook over here very flexible, can always come down here to start an attack on the queen side, can come here to defend, but now yeah, committed to, because the pawn has advanced far enough that I think there should be a critical attack now. It's pinning the bishop, so this pawn is now hanging. The rook is still defense. So I think we might see the pawn push up here. Yep. And I don't see a defense. Yep. Just tick, and this pawn is going to queen very soon. The king can't actually unpin itself because squares are all covered. So this pawn is just going to come, and if rook takes and bishop takes, and then the game is over. But the bishop takes the rook instead, and you find why there? Yeah, I was thinking these 3, then you can at least be down only 1 pawn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, are they trying to
kill me? I don't know. But I don't think so. It might be just pressure from time. You're playing on. Never resign, I guess. And it's a simple ladder made from here. Let's checkmate. Okay. Good game by Eunice. That was some very niche tactics. You has very niche tactics. Yes. I think I like this game quite a bit, so I try it. So maybe we have a record of the games that we enjoy from. Also managed to win their third game. That's great. With 18 minutes on the clock. I think that's their tactic, to just play very fast to pressure the opponent into playing fast as well. E4, E5. Let's hope. Vienna game. And my brain's kind of fried. I can't analyze it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright. Any previewers left only? I think that's it for the morning rounds, the 3 rounds. Yeah, let's take a look at the standings before we sign up for the day. In the open section, we have Cabbage is Mare with 2 points at 15 out of 73 players. Very respectable, very good. But of course, there are a lot of players here with 2 points, so we'll see the gap widen in the further future rounds as the better players get paired against each other. So, next up we have. Wait, there has to be another player with 2 points, right? I'm pretty sure. Oh, I think some players haven't finished their game yet. Yeah, new player is still playing. Yeah. New player is black. Black is up at night, but white is about the queen as well. So that's no. Oh wait, this is the okay. White spawns are going this way. Okay, so black is completely winning. Yeah. And black and new player is black, so there's quite a bit of time left. I don't think there's much white can do here. I think trying to trade off the rooks. So I would maybe getting the rook behind the pawn, then you can try pushing.
But why would I?
Oh wait, it's black was trying to threaten me. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really understand what white. Because the problem with like losing endgames, right, is that most moves don't make sense. So you just make a move that.
I mean, I was imagining like move the rook.
Right. I might move it here to prevent the king from. I don't know. But the king is next to the pawn already, so there's no way to cut the king off from the pawn, which is usually.
I'm not thinking of trying to do something to allow white king.
Right. Right. Planning to. So you can't take the pawn now because if you take the pawn, rook check, and then yeah, you actually lose the rook because the king defends, the white king defends white rook. So yeah. Okay, but black of course didn't fall for it, and we'll be seeing a victory soon. So the funny thing about this position also is that there's actually a mate coming. Yeah, so like you have to move the king out of the way, otherwise there's mate. So you can't even do anything to stop the pawn because you have to move the king out of the way.
Yeah.
So white has resigned and black victorious, and that should bring us to 2 varsity players with 2 points. Cabbage is Meh, has 2 points and 15th on the leaderboard. New player 345 has 2 points, the 27th on the leaderboard. Lower tie breaks, but once again we'll see the scores separate out more as we as the rounds go later. Victory
behind you in
yeah, behind you in real life.
Random
person, yeah. Victory lost their 3rd game unfortunately, so 1 point on 48th position. And then I think the last player is we should have Onwards Hope, who has 1 point. Yeah. So 62nd position. Managed to win that third game. Yeah, so that's the current standings for the open section. And then for the girls section, we have Eunice won her game against Sarandaga with a perfect 3 out of 3. Yeah. Sarandaga, very close fight, but lost the game against Eunice and 2 out of 3 in third place. TKIL has won everything as well. I don't know who that is. So this should be an interesting matchup for the next game after our commentary. Yeah. So I think that will be it for the coverage of the morning part of the NSI Under 20. We have been your hosts, and Kira, and
Totoro.
And Totoro, yes, you like my shit. So in the afternoon, in about time is it? Yeah. So it's nearly 1 p.m. now. The games will resume at 2 p.m. So it's a 1 hour lunch break. And the games in the afternoon will be covered by the commentators Kelvin and Andrew from SiVCA. So be sure to tune in for that. Thanks everyone, you've been great, and see you in the future. Bye bye.
Bye.